Hey, I'm Tom Colicchio, and this is my Meetup with MEATER. So today, I'm calling this Rolling with MEATER because we're doing 3 different meats. We're doing rabbit, we're doing lamb, and we're doing pork, all boned out and then all going to be rolled up, tied, and roasted. Originally, I was going to do 3 separate dishes, but as we started cooking them, and I realized I can use 3 different probes and hook it up to the same phone, and you can actually track each 3 cooks, did a great job of showcasing not only that you can track 3 things at one time, but then also when we talked about carryover cooking and then the idea of resting, the MEATER does that for you. So not only are you learning dishes, but you're really learning how to cook, and you know the MEATER does that. Here's our lamb loin. So same thing, we bone this out, but when you bone this out, it's kind of neat. You keep the top fat on the loin, but then all the other fat, we actually trim it down and pound it, so it's really the same. It's very thin, and it's all kind of the same. We have the tenderloin, all right, and we have the loin. So there are your pieces. Now, what we like to do here, obviously we're going to season it with some salt, some pepper, and then we're going to take a little bit of garlic confit. So it's just cooked in oil for a long time, and we smash it right into the meat. And there's at this point with the lamb, I'm going to use garlic confit and lemon confit and some rosemary, but you could do anything. So if you want to make this really spicy, you can rub this with harissa. You can even chop up chickpeas to put on the inside. We're going to use Swiss chard, but the idea is the technique. The boning it out, I'm not showing you that. It's a little complicated, but you can figure it out if you know how to butcher, you can figure it out. So we're going to chop up some of the lemon confit, and this lemon confit is just lemon that we slice, we cure with sugar and salt, and then put olive oil on it. So we're going to rub that in there. And then we have our Swiss chard. Now the Swiss chard's blanched, and the Swiss chard just kind of goes right here. Same thing, want to go back and use the Activa. This will just bind this. Now, what we're going to do is, I know we have the Activa and that's going to help seal it, but I'm also going to roll some Caul fat around it. So you don't have to do this. I think the Activa will keep it nice and set. We have our Caul fat, and here's our Caul fat. It's a thin layer, almost like a veil of fat that sits around the kidneys. And so you see how it's, really makes a great Halloween costume too. You do like really cool things with this. But that's it, and it's used a lot in charcuterie. You see it wrapped around pâtés. I've used this to wrap fish with as well, for vegetables and fish and stuff. But for this dish, we're just going to take it and trim it up just a little bit. And give this a little. You see how I just pull it, so it just makes it nice and snug. And then we're going to tie this. So we're going to just give this a couple. Again, when I tie, I like to do a double hitch knot. So real quick, this end here doesn't move. It just is the end, the tag end here. You go up and under, and up and under, and this creates a slip knot. And you can just kind of slip that in, and then you pull the tag end to tighten it up, and that's it. And to me, it's just easier to do. It's also easier to untie. When the old way of tying, when you use the one string and you loop it around, it's okay, but I think this is much more accurate. I think you can really put a lot. The pressure that you need to put on it too is a little more secure and a little more accurate. And these ties like so. One more should do it. And then what you want to do is, after this is tied, you want to give this a good 24 hours in the refrigerator, because that Activa needs to bind the proteins together, and it takes about 24 hours. So put this in your refrigerator and it's ready to go. And that's it. There's your lamb loin, your stuffed lamb loin, ready to roast. The lamb dish is a dish that I've been doing on and off for probably 10 years now. I did this in France a couple years ago. We had to do this big dinner, like 125 people, and they flew myself in, some of my chefs in. We had to make a whole meal, and the lamb was the entree. And it was really funny because I guess so many kitchens are used to doing sous vide cooking, and when we just started roasting, the cooks all gathered around. They were like, "How do you know when it's done?" I was like, "You know, we know," and they just couldn't believe that because they were also asking us like why we were. I was going to cook the lamb, and it's like 5 o'clock now, 6 o'clock now. The dinner started at 7. 7 o'clock, I'm not cooked yet. And they're like, "Why haven't you cooked this yet? We would have cooked this at 2 o'clock and held it." I was like, "No, I'm not going to do that." So that's the only. But it's a dish that I've been doing for on and off now for a while. It's once it's prepped, it's pretty easy to do, and it always looks great and it's a showstopper. So yeah. So here's our lamb again, our lamb loin. It's been sitting for about 24 hours just so it gets sealed. So we're going to insert the probe. There we go. And I'm going to insert this right into the side here, into the loin itself. So, and also, if you notice, I put it in there's two sides of this loin. There's a thinner side and a heavier side. I put it in the heavier side, okay? So we're going to just give this a roast. A good amount of oil on the bottom. That was like 4 ounces. Make sure this is well seasoned. And it just goes right in. Now, we don't want this to be too hot when it starts. You want to take some time. And we're not going to really, give it a heavy sear. We're just going to get it started. I want this to go into a cooler oven. It doesn't need to be 400 degrees. I want to bring this down to about 275. We'll take our time with this. So it could take longer than 12 to 13 minutes, but we have the MEATER, and we'll set up the cook right now while that's over there searing. We'll set this up. We're going to choose lamb, and you can tell it's lamb because it's got a little lamb on there. There you go, lamb, and this will be a roast, and this will be a loin, and the recommended temperature is 130 degrees. Set the cook, and in the oven we go. Now what I'm going to do is put this in the oven, and after about 5 minutes or so, we're going to add some butter to it and a bunch of herbs and let that roast together. And so we have, again, the MEATER we're going to put close to the stove. Again, this stays in contact with the thermometer. This stays in contact with the smartphone. So we're all set up, ready to cook. Originally, when we started cooking, I was going to do everything separately, but we prepped everything at the same time, and then I started cooking everything at the same time, knowing they were going to come out of the oven at different times. But then it was kind of neat because we actually did turn it into one cook because we were able to track all 30 cooks simultaneously with the MEATER. During COVID, I started doing these cooking lessons at home and stuff, and I was really trying to teach people that time is not important. I always get a question, how long does it take? It's irrelevant. I mean, the temperature is what's important. You can choose to cook very, very slow. You may want to choose to, for whatever reason, to cook at a very high heat. You may get a pork loin that has an eye this big, that's going to take longer to cook than something that's that big. So really, you're learning a lot of different things, and that's kind of what I like to do. Whenever I, do a cookbook or do a cooking class, the point's not the dish. The point is trying to teach something along the way. And I think the MEATER really does teach you a few things that can make you a better cook. Our lamb loin, there's only 3 minutes left. I already got my 5-minute warning. 3 minutes left on that cook. Internal temperature right now is 112. See, this is where I always get skeptical. It's like, it's 112, 3 minutes to get to 130? No way. So we're getting close. Remove from heat. It's telling me to take it out. Let's do a quick little baste at the end. And we'll let this rest now. And herbs on it. It's resting. Now, here's the other neat thing. It actually tells you how long to rest this. Without the MEATER, you're just kind of going by feel or going by some time. So much more accurate. My advice to any young chef is, learn from the best people possible. Don't spend too much time in one restaurant. A year's enough. Don't think that after 2 years in the industry you can become a sous chef. Give it some time. Cook in a lot of different restaurants. Travel a lot. And then take that all in and find your own way. Do your thing. You have to find something that's unique. That's what moves the needle these days. You know, something that's unique, something that's different, something that's authentic to you. And so that's what's important is you got to find your own way. The temperature came up to about 137, actually about 137 and a half. And now we're waiting for it to drop down a little bit because at that point, once the internal temperature starts to drop down, that means the juices have all gone out to the exterior of the meat and it is ready to cut. Hey, ready. There it is. We got the green light. We're ready to go. It says happy eating. We're gonna pull out the probe. Make sure you wash this really, really well before you stick it back in the holder. We're gonna slice this. So what we have, it's nice and pink. I prefer my lamb like this. If you like it rare, set it up for a rare cook. But I think this is perfect. It's still nice and juicy. It's nice and moist. And I'm cutting this straight down. And again, you see, beautiful medium. It's nice and pink. Again, this is how I prefer my lamb. See that? Here we go. That's perfect. You see our Swiss chard that we laid in there, right? Nice pink. That's it. That's our lamb cook with the MEATER. There we go. And I'm just gonna take a nice little bite out of this. That's really good. Who wants to eat?